Welcome to this edition of AFMC.
I'll tell you how I got better. I'm
Glad to be here.
But a mission to
Delivery of Well, I think that we're going to talk about everybody's.
Arkansas is the second highest prescriber.
Welcome to AFMC TV. I'm Robin Ledbetter. Thank you for joining us. I have with me today Glenn McCracken, and he is the owner and founder of TAV, and it is a personal trainer, a kettlebell instructor, and
That's
a therapist.
True. Yeah. I've got all those titles.
Well, a unique topic, because we're talking about men's health today, men's mental health, and it's coming up as Men's Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yep.
So tell me that often we hear about women diagnosed with depression, but we don't hear a lot about men. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's true. The statistics on men and women's mental health is pretty staggering, given that the number one killer for men under 50 is suicide. But men are reporting mental health disorders at almost like twice or 6% less likely than women. And they're medicated less than half. And so women are medicated at around 15%, men are medicated around 7%. And so, I mean, it's really prevalent out there that women seem to be really comfortable with asking for help. It seems to be normalized, I think, specifically coming out of when you have a child, then there's even a term for the depression that comes with this like huge life adjustment, which is basically like goodbye to everything that you used to do and the person who you used to be and how you used to think, and hello to not thinking about you anymore. And so there's like a death of a self there, and it's really common, and there's terms for it for women, which is like postpartum depression, but in men that doesn't happen. And so it's kind of just thought that like, okay, you just keep going.
And so why do men put their health on the back burner? Why do you think? Is it because we hear so much about women and there's not a focus? But personally, why do men put their health on the back burner?
I think survival is, Glasser is one of the psychologists who I follow a lot. He talks about these 5 needs that we all have, and one of them is survival. And from a men's mental health perspective, just the thought of me not going to work after my kid was born, or the thought of me somehow abandoning my responsibilities is shame and isolation. And so survival is like, look, like whatever feelings you have, there's not space for those to be attended to, because you're needed to perform, you're needed to act. And so I think in our society, a lot of that is shifting. We are seeing there's like a correlation between the more therapists there are and the more mental health disorders that there are reported, and those things are paralleling one another. You could say that like therapists are just accommodating to the needs that are there, but you can also bend it the other way if you want as well. Overall, men just have a harder time creating the type of space for their mental health, which is, I think, what sticks out to that statistic of the number one killer of men under 50 being suicide. Just what do you do if you can't just keep going to work? What do you do if you can't keep putting on the mask? And how do you filter that stuff out?
Now, from a therapist perspective, statistics and reports are important, but your methods are a little bit different. Tell me about that.
It's true. So for me, I'm a big fan of what helps and what we know about people who enjoy life. So if you research happiness, the common connectors that you're going to find are people feel connected to a community. That's one of the things that you'll find that's across the board. Another thing that you'll find is that people they enjoy their activity. That's different than like someone who is just disciplined to exercise. That's not enjoying your activity, but being able to enjoy daily activity is really crucial for longevity and happiness. And then finally, another common factor within that is going to be basically intergenerational conversation. So the ability to see really far forward and the ability to relate really far back, or new, you could say, to like babies. these three common factors are things that I think of whenever I'm like, okay, I've got to get clients just having good days. That's the most important thing when someone's showing up to me, is I'm probably not seeing them on their worst day, but shortly after their worst day. And my number one goal is to help people have better days. And so let's get them enjoying their activity. Let's repair relationships with people. And let's get them thinking, being able to stay in their present body, but move psychologically in time forward and back, being able to reflect. Because that's another thing that I notice just really hurts a lot of people, is their memories. Their memories of what has happened in the past, and being disrupted by those memories and not being able to even visit their past because of something that happened there. And a lot of times you'll see that in like bereavement, depression. That's the type of thinking that haunts that. And then future time is all like projecting forward. And so we all know that this interview will live on beyond our life. And somebody that is afraid to look forward in life, the first thing they have to fear is that I'm not guaranteed how far forward that I can go in my life, and that feels really scary. So then what's it all mean? What's it all worth? And so being able to get someone brave enough to engage psychological time forward and back, and then that keeps them in their present. And that's something, when you asked about methodologies, I want people to have better days, and I want them to have ranges that other people that are reporting happiness are able to find. And I do that with exercise. We do that with talk therapy. We do that with a lot of homework. And so I'm an outpatient therapist. We say that this is like the lowest level of care that somebody is going to experience whenever they're getting mental health help. And most commonly, you're going to show up to a therapist in an outpatient setting once a week, once every other week, sometimes once a month. And that means that the person who's showing up, they're getting 1 hour of interaction that needs to have a benefit of those other hours that they're outside of your facility. And it takes them being able to take action.
Mm-hmm. It takes work for them. Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Are you seeing significant strides made in men's mental health awareness? Are you seeing that?
Yeah, I've seen some really cool things with men's mental health. I think the story that I was just trying not to jump into, but I just have to, is I work with a lot of teen males, and that's kind of my MO that's what I care the most about. I received therapy whenever I was a teenager. I would say that it was at that time that I decided, this person is the most objective person to get me to where I want to go in life, not where my parents want me to go, not where my teachers want me to go, or my coaches want me to go, but they're helping me understand me and how I can make a difference in finding my heart. All that to say, that's who I help. Is mostly I'm right there with the teens. I love that population. And last year was the first year that I started receiving referrals from male teen groups saying, hey, you should go see my therapist whenever they're showing up, too drunk at a party, or whenever they're dealing with big feelings that are really persistent. I've gotten 3 referrals this past year from other teen clients referring their teenage friends. And I've been doing this since 2012, and last year was the first year for that. I would say that that's a huge stride. Another thing that has seemed to really help with men's mental health over the recent couple years has been coaching industry. I think the coaching industry was really smart to call it coaching and differentiate that from counseling, because counseling did feel like this thing where you were just going to come explore your feelings at some antiquated social science experiment kind of way, whereas I don't know what the goal of this is, and I don't know exactly what this person's role is in helping me get there. A coach is such a well-defined term that a lot of men relate to, that are growing up, and that they get coaches, and most men can say, hey, like, I had a coach that really helped me. And just like having that terminology and then saying, okay, I'm open to a coach. I've seen a lot of my friends get business coaches, and those business coaches start working into their emotional intelligence. Brene Brown has been an extremely helpful person to speak to men's mental health as well, and kind of popularize addiction work and allow men to not glorify their drinking, and start seeing their drinking as like somewhat problematic and in the way of them achieving other things that are great. And those have been some of the main strides that I've seen. Is the sober movement has been absolutely amazing as well, which is people just like, instead of glorifying drinking alcohol, they're just like, I'll just get some mocktails and save the calories, be able to drive myself home without the fear of the shame of getting a DUI and having that whole situation as well. So big steps in men's mental health over the past, I would say, over the past 3 years.
What is the stages of change method?
So the stages of change model, it is the most common model that's used, I would say, all the way from primary care physicians all the way into the counseling world, where motivational interviewing is the skill that's most often paired with it. But stages of change gives all of us healthcare professionals an idea of where an individual is in their change process. Are they even thinking about it? That's called the pre-contemplative stage, which is, hey, you showed up for these labs and I'm going to tell you that this number was pretty bad. And if you're not saying, oh yeah, I kind of was worried about that, we know you're in the pre-contemplative stage. Then you have the contemplative stage, which I think that doctor's goal in that place is to take this person all the way from they've never even considered this a problem to the action phase of what's the action that we're going to take to get some results. And then there's finally a maintenance phase, which is how do we keep that action going, or what actions do we need to keep going to sustain the change that we're looking for in this person.
So relationship, friendship, fraternity, those three are so important for men. Why?
One of the things is like just even thinking about the Apple Watch is such a fun way to, it gives me the ability to be my own self, to take my exercise wherever I want to take my exercise. I can log a workout, and as soon as I'm done with that workout, my friends can chime in, and like there's some automated messages, some ability to do custom messages. But it allows us to stay connected. And why it's important is because we didn't create ourselves. There's no model for that. And so there's no way that we can grow without that. You look at the 7 habits for highly effective humans, you look at EOS and business books, you look at hospital systems. There's just so rare that it's one person. And there's not a sports team out there, you know, that also exists with just one person. And so even the individual golfers, they grew up playing all sport events and all team events. And within that, you've just got power in being able to build off of one another and having that support. I think there's a lot of cultures that support men hugging other men, men crying out to other men. I think even if you look, once again, I'll go back and reference the Bible. You look at Moses, you look at David. Both of these people are very comfortable crying out to something bigger than themselves, and even to their brothers for help and for support. And as men, we need that. Absolutely.
And it's beyond diet and exercise. The importance of connection is vital as well. Yeah.
Men, everybody loves to play. I think like that just you hearing that word brings a smile to your face. Play is so critical for our learning processes. It's so critical for our ability to be collaborative as well as competitive. And whenever we get a chance to play with each other, we can learn something about ourselves and get the chance to support another person. And yes, definitely beyond diet and exercise. I think about one of the reasons, one of the things that I believe is really challenging for men to engage in mental health work is just having to do something like this. Just starting with like, can I sit and talk to someone face to face for any amount of time? A lot of men's activities are shoulder to shoulder activities, a lot of parallel play. We're gonna go do this thing together, but we're not gonna get a lot of face to face time. And that's so to answer your question, beyond diet and exercise is connection vital? Absolutely, but I also think that it's one of the things that breeds discomfort.
Well, Glenn, thank you for talking to us today and talking about your philosophy and your work. It's so important, and I appreciate what you're doing.
You bet. Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
And that's it for this episode of AFMC TV. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.